everyone, and welcome to the second session of this learning event on community networks. First of all, I would like to thank the co-organizers of this session, that is the Technological Innovations for Sustainable Development Platform, Association for Progressive Communications, Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia, ISEA, Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism, Social and Community Enterprise Constituency. Welcome you all to the second session of the Community Networks Learning event that has been a brainchild of ISEA in partnership with APC, Association for Progressive Communications. We began with this partnership with ISEA as a course that we took on social enterprises that was offered to us by ISEA, and as a second thing that we went into from that course is this learning event on community networks. Now, a little bit about our community networks initiative by Association for Progressive Communications is that Association for Progressive Communications has this very is a project that is ongoing since 2018 on trying to understand the last mile connectivity by seeding community networks to grow. We work in the global south, that is in Asia, in Latin America and Africa. And it's a project that is ongoing since 2018. We have peers all across the global south. We have 4 each from different regions. In Asia, we have in Indonesia, Myanmar and India. We also have our catalytic grantees in Malaysia. And similarly, we have in Latin America and Africa. So before we go into this learning session, I would like to also thank Gomer, Anton and Bats from the communications team of ISEA, who has enabled or facilitated us to have this session. We are also live on the ISEA Facebook page, and it's streaming live in YouTube as well. A little bit about today's session is that, as you know, this is the second session of the learning event. And so internet connectivity plays an essential role in driving fundamental changes in economic and social development. And internet access is now being sought after in all the places, especially it has become a necessity after the COVID pandemic. And the need is much more in the rural areas because to enhance livelihoods, create jobs and entrepreneurships, and contribute to economic growth in those regions. So community networks has emerged to provide a low cost, often open source communication technology that can be locally owned and operated. Catering to both the fluctuating demands and issues of affordability in the last mile. Community networks employ a participatory model that emerges from the immediate needs and context of the community, where members can be involved in all levels from its design to its implementation. And today we are going to have 4 panelists speak about their experiences of seeding community networks to grow in Asia. And the important objectives of this session is that an understanding of the different issues and challenges of community networks. We are also trying to understand the different strategies employed to address and overcome challenges. And it's an appreciation of the potential and capacity of community networks to provide holistic connectivity. So these are the objectives of the workshop, today. And I'm sure you will benefit a lot from this workshop today. And I will now like to introduce to our speakers, panelists for today. The first speaker is TB Dinesh from the Janastu Community Network. And a little bit background about Dinesh is that Dinesh moved from academic computer science to real world research that involves backward linkages to regional communities around him. As Janastu and Servlots, they strive to set up a rural research lab, which is called Iruve, near Bangalore in India. Iruve strives to conceptualize and deploy inclusive internet technology tools with communities who are marginalized by literacy. So the network of theirs is called Cow Mesh, that is community-owned Wi-Fi mesh community network that strives to provision hypermedia archives for discovery and navigation of local information to be seamlessly and safely provisioned within the World Wide Web with the needs of women set as the baseline. So I would like to welcome our first speaker for the session today, Dinesh. Over to you.
Hello, hi Sarbani, thanks. I just sent the slides. Can somebody please put my slides on, because I'm on my phone and I've never used this on my laptop. The Zoom is not opening on my laptop.
We can share the slides from our end, Dinesh.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway, my talk is titled Kawabanga. It's just an expression of, wow, we got it. But the whole point is to see, like, what is it when we are interested in a community and community networking? What are the tools that we want to see to kind of get that accelerated emotional feedback, I mean, from ourselves. So what I'm going to do is, I have 20 minutes, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is just, thanks. Just bring out certain on the ground issues so that we are able to kind of hopefully see what might be a very cohesive community, like something that manifests, bring more cohesiveness to an existing community, and what tools can kind of bring that about. Since we all use the internet so much, so it won't be so different than what we expect from the internet. But at the same time, I hope we'll see that we actually don't expect much from the internet other than whatever the tools that are provided by the big corporations and the internet, that internet technology that we already take for granted. I don't know how many of you have asked, hey, why is this not there for us? My favorite example is web annotation. Yeah. So we use internet a lot, but we take for granted that documents on the internet cannot be annotated unless it's like a closed world, like Google Docs or something. But if you take a book, you just highlight and annotate, right? So that's one of the things that I want to bring about and say, like, there are questions that we don't ask on the internet, maybe because it's not the time now for that. We feel like, when it comes, it comes. But that's kind of a not such a great thing to be in that phase. Um, Coming from internet makers of the internet, if we should all think of us as makers of the internet, and if we don't ask those questions, who does? But this becomes very important when we go forward and meet like a very diverse community. Next slide. Very diverse community where many of them are not even literate. Okay, and many of them have are not even the first time users of the internet, other than for some small banking needs or something that they use their phones. That and more than 60-70% don't have like smartphones, and more than 50% don't have any phones, I think. Okay. So now let's just see, like, sit and kind of contemplate on what might be the tools that might be nice and how to kind of enable it, and how to even use this as an opportunity, that they're all not like Facebook users, they're all not like individual smartphone users. Okay, so and they all have this great diversity. Some of them will not read, some of them cannot read, most of them cannot write, or even if they can write, if you ask them, they'll say yes, we can write. But when you ask them to kind of, okay, can you give me your name and phone number on your paper, they'll say, can you please do it yourself? That uncomfortable, right? So this is the realistic scenario, and I would say, in spite of the great progress of schools and education and all that, more than 50% of the world, especially the South, global South, are in this situation where they would rather do voice communications, rather not have to read, rather not have to read a document for sure, right, given to them. And so we need to kind of step in these directions and look at what are these tools. Like, if we are internet providers, if we are techies, if we are community um, people who are, you know, vying for the community needs and bringing a uh, community together, and then in a replicable way, right? If we have one such model, I mean, certainly open source replicability, all this. So I think most of us in this, I don't know the kind of people who are here, but most of us kind of hopefully can identify with these issues. So one of the main things, since the school uh, have started like 300 years ago, maybe more than that, one of the things that has happened is there is this great emphasis on literacy, reading and writing, which is all very good. But the people who don't go through, they fall through the CU and get to this um, expected standards of like graduation through literacy and all that are huge. And what happens to them is such a invalidation, so that they actually are uh, in a lifelong state of depression, in the sense of when you see their activity post school or school dropout, you'll understand that they always feel like failure. I think at this stage of the internet and technology, we need to think of like what else is possible, how to kind of make learning possible, how to kind of make the self validation possible. And one of the things that has been greatly affected is the sense of, I mean, the uh, capability of expression. Okay, because they are forced to read and write, and if they even open their mouth in classrooms or wherever else, people are like, you know, they think that's a wrong attitude for a person to have. So most of them have lost their expression, and especially as a community expression, it's comes down to various patriarchal and other things, and the women are not allowed to express in the public at all. And as I say this, we need to kind of look at, you know, where are we in terms of provisioning a community network to service this and tools. So one of the things here in this photograph you can see is oh, is it, you said 10-20 minutes, now it's not even 10 minutes. Gomer, Hello?
Yeah, Dinesh.
Hey, Gomer is asking, can we have Dinesh finish?
Yeah, Dinesh, because Osama is going to catch a flight in
Okay.
another 10 minutes, can we just pause for, we would request you to pause and let Osama
I mean,
speak.
Osama could
And
have
then,
given the first talk. But
yeah,
anyway,
I did not, yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool,
So
cool, cool.
just a moment, and after Osama's talk, you can
Yeah.
present. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Hey, Dinesh, thank you for
Hi.
giving that background,
Yeah.
which is not uncommon for the rest of the people who know India, know actually most of the South Asia and most of the Southeast Asia also, that this situation is not uncommon. But what is uncommon, what is common is that we ignore such community and we don't know their numbers, and they are very high numbers. I mean, if we look at the example that you are giving, is a situation of, if not millions, but hundreds and thousands of locations in India, right? And the similar situation, patriarchal society, remote areas, unconnected people, very knowledgeable but defined as illiterate, uneducated, and so on and so forth. So for the rest of the people, the topic is very interesting. That what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and for the community networks, I'm not going to talk about how to deploy, how to connect, because we have been talking about it for the last 10, 15 years. And that what is community networks, what is its definition, and all that. We all know that there is a lot of innovation that has taken place. What I am going to talk about is that the challenge of community network is that, will it continue to be innovation-based appreciation, or will it be become a scale-based appreciation? I mean, how can we scale it? How can we diversify? How can we go to hundreds of places regularly, constantly, periodically, one after the other? And how can the community network player is not a minority but a majority, because of two reasons. One is that most of the places where community networks are relevant, they are the telcos are not going to go there very easily because it doesn't pay them money, so their attention there is very low. Their focus is very low because they only work on the profit motive. The second thing is that the telcos work on a top-down model, which where they control the connectivity, they control the network. And what we are talking about, community network, is also community-driven, community participative, and community controlled or regulated. So, and that's not easy. That's because that's governance, that about policy. How do you manage your own network? How do you decide what content to consume, or what content not to consume, or what content to broadcast, or what content not to broadcast? Obviously, community network is not expected to be a normal consumers, and normal users. They are more network users rather than internet consumers, like the way internet is known. Like Dinesh said, that now internet is owned by the corporates and the biggies. There are only 4 or 5 entities. If you have access, then you are internet. But that's not what community is looking for. So the challenges here for all of us, all the 38 people who are here, all the 10, 20 people who are operators of community network, I think organization like DEF and APC and all, we have a huge onus. How do we take this community network to the mass scale? How do we take community network to diversify itself and subcategorize it? Community networks for schools, community networks for community networks for Anganwadi, community networks for health facilities, community networks for various kind of things, so that it correlate. The community network is not the tech fad, but it is very much like the way we have electricians around us, the plumbers around us, who run all kind of electricity and water pipes and things like that. We need to have that kind of situation to do that. And it will be really nice that if this entire initiative of this kind of discussion, if we create a consortium kind of thing to see how we can scale this up to a very high level of mass scale utilization. And that's the challenge that I would like to put into ourselves and to all the players who are around us, that can we take community networks to a scale, to diversified usage, to diversified deployment. And yes, I mean, because all of us have been doing community networks for quite some time, and we have done 1 location, 2 locations, 3 locations, many places. We have examples to learn. We know how, and the point is that I see that we have fascinating story, but we need to take this fascinating story to the larger number of people, so that it does not become a unique story, but it becomes a story of all the household and all the small little villages and so on and so forth. Thanks. That's where I will stop. And I still have a few minutes. If there is any question that anybody would like to ask before I vanish, let me know. Very good to see Michael here. Very good to see Dinesh, you here, and very good to see Sarvani here, and many more people. And delighted that we are not doing our own work, but again coming back to discuss with each other to how to fight the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Osama. And yeah, I'm extremely sorry, Dinesh, that we had to cut you down when you were speaking. And yeah, Osama, before he went into the his discussion,
Can I reply to Isha? She has asked a question.
Yes, please do so on the chat. Or
yes. Yeah. Isha has asked that, in your view, what have been the most pressing challenges to scaling up, and how can we mitigate those? So I would say, I would say, Isha, is that the problem is very clear. We do not see community network as a mass scalable initiative. And therefore, we have not been able to convince CSR or the big funders to spend in this area, to mass scale train, mass scale deploy, and so on and so forth. And we are also not able to finding a solution to tell a story, that each story of community network is not a story of a uniqueness, but it's a story of a mass problem that it can solve. So we need to really talk about community networks. When we talk about community networks, we need to say that if we deploy community networks, 1.4 million schools can be connected, 20 million Anganwadis can be connected. So we need to tweak the story of unconnected people who are suffering because of exclusion, to make sure that the funders, the investors, the philanthropies, they really see this as a problem to solve. Unless it is considered to be a problem to be solved, people are not going to invest in this area, and that's what I see is one of the bottlenecks. Because in many countries like here and all that, policy is not a big bottleneck, deployment is not a big bottleneck, technology is also not a big bottleneck. I think the only big bottleneck is that why don't we see this as a scalable model with 20 components, deploy and done. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Osama. Thanks for taking that question, and nice. Appreciate your the presence of mind that you took the question online. Otherwise, yeah. So we actually, before Osama vanishes, I would also like the introduction part for Osama was not done. And so I would like to introduce Osama. Osama Mansur is a senior Ashoka Fellow and British shaving scholar who founded Digital Empowerment Foundation, which has empowered more than 25 million people in India and several people of the Global South. He has served on various committees at MIT, that is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, MIB, CII, and served on the boards of APC, Association for Progressive Communications, World Summit Awards, World Wide Web Foundation's A4AI, Down to Earth, and many more. So Osama has seeded many community networks to grow through his organization, that is the Digital Empowerment Foundation. And thank you, Osama, for the presentation of yours and for that very interesting insights into the challenges that community networks face and how we can take the next step forward in scaling community networks to grow. Thanks a lot. If there are any more questions for you, Osama, we will send it to you on email and perhaps you can reply back because you have a flight to catch. Wishing you a very happy journey and see you soon in Mumbai. Then we move into the speaker, that is Dinesh. And Dinesh, sorry, extremely sorry for not for cutting you down in the middle of your talk. Sorry for that, but you can continue with your talk now. Thanks.
No problem. I think Osama also just continued my talk. So, so where were we? I think scaling is one thing, but what are we scaling? You know, what is it that we are scaling? You know, if it's just internet provisioning, it's understandable. If the universal service funds are used for providing internet because the telecoms provide internet and they were supposed to provide internet, so it's now delegated to community networks. It kind of makes sense, but it's not enough because most of the reason that they didn't provide telecom services was because there was an obvious disparity. They couldn't make money out of this. Okay. And then there is an obvious, suspicion, doubt of like how many of them would be real users, active users, right? So I think we should kind of keep this in mind on why they didn't go and why that universal service fund is sitting there, the big pot, and available for community networks, should be available for community networks. But it's not to provide internet like they would have provided, and to say that, okay, now if they can provide, we will provide. It's really kind of a cop out because we cannot provide what they can provide. Like if you ever worked on a community network, you know, it's like, first of all, that their radio waves are different, ours is different when we talk about Wi-Fi mesh, you know, and then the hardware, the infrastructure needs are different, right? We need to work with solar and other things, and then, you know, we realize, like, for example, our group, for 50% of our existence, we relied on clients, like it's based on income coming from the clients. But for the last 10 years, we have so I think we have to relook at all these things that, you know, I mean, 10 years ago, we decided, okay, it's nice to have like these clients and work for their needs and all that, but we can't innovate for them because they don't understand the potential of what is possible. That's when we, you know, approached APC and other people to kind of see like, okay, we need to work at that level where the tools and innovative creativity is also exist for these communities' needs in the way that it's not normally assumed that these services are available. Okay. So back to the talk. I think So one of the things is related to the community expression, right? How many of us blog? How many of us post on Instagram? How many of us have our own web pages? How many of us are very creative about maintaining it, right? If you look at that, I think that kind of those issues explode exponentially when you come to community networks. Okay, where are they able to blog? What is a blog? If they can't read and write, what is a blog? Is TikTok a blog of sorts, right? So you have to kind of think about all this and see, like, if we have hypertext, and then what about people who don't have text at all? What is hypertext kind of link, link data for them? So what are the tools that might make it easy to kind of uh, do hypermedia archives for their needs? And where are these archives? Okay, should they be located? Where should they be available for them? How should they be available? So we kind of think about this aloud, and you can go to our webpage called open.janastu.org. We kind of put a lot there. If you don't see what you're looking for, just search for it. But as we move fast through this cheap products coming from all over the world, especially China and all, we realize that there is no the need for anybody to create anything or produce anything as products, anything is like really gone down, right? Yesterday I was at a meat shop to get something for my dog, and the guy was saying it's so expensive now, the meat prices. I said, why? And he was like, the fodder for the chicken is so expensive. All the, where you grow, the land is so expensive. But one thing that he said was, everybody wants to sit and eat, but nobody wants to go on the ground and produce anymore. Okay. So that's for the food, but it's also the same for craft. It's also the same for innovations. It's just like people just sit, and on the other hand, the village community, the youth find it extremely hard to spend money. There's nothing to spend money except if they go into a splurge mode. So these are the two extremes in which we are sitting and facing what is the possibility of where the communities are in a typical rural scenario. Um, so, the space is wide open if you want to create it. I don't think I have time to go individually to this. So let's go to the next slide. One of the important things is what we call as re-narration. Yeah. Like, this is a document of Minimum Wages Act of India, which is about 50-year-old document, at least maybe 55-year-old document. Okay. So this is written in legalese English, and it's about 125 pages. And if you think about Minimum Wages Act, the act, it, it regulates how much should somebody be paid, and who should most people who cannot read and write come into this part where they need to kind of understand and use this act. But how? So India is set up means, like, a lot of NGOs come and work on this areas. Now with the internet scale, how can this translate and come to each of the community, like dialects and people? So that's one of the questions, right? Sorry, I cannot read the chat. If there is something significant, please read it out. Okay. So this is one of the things, right? For every community, there should be a way to kind of bring something that they're interested in. Or if I think, oh, this person needs to know about the Minimum Wage Act, what is the minimum amount of work that I'll do to help them understand, knowing that they can't read it? What is it that I'm willing to do to kind of help them understand what the act is and make it part of the document? That's called re-narration. Okay. Next. Okay. And then this thing that we already discussed a little bit, which is the support services. What is the hardware for this kind of a network? Okay. Where does the electricity come from? And how do you maintain it? How do they detect faults? How do they, who maintains, who operates this, right? So all this I am implying needs tools and techniques, right? Not like outsiders coming and saying we can fix it. Because with proper tools and techniques available for them, they should be the first responders. And same for like, what do they get out of these mesh networks, right? Meaning that we can do Google Maps and we can do something, but in a mesh network, there is a completely different kind of resource mapping that is necessary. That's why my first slide was a little baby sand boa, uh, and that was everywhere. But there is this huge like misunderstanding of a lot of snakes. There are only two snakes. One is cobra and viper, which are dangerous, and all the others are rat. I mean, the rat snake. So anything that's not a rat snake, they'll kill. Okay. So I mean, what is that kind of a local knowledge? Why is it disappearing? We need to kind of keep this in mind and see how we can incentivize people who are interested in internet and other things to come um, to also understand this or contribute to this local knowledge. That's kind of uh, is there one more slide? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So this, especially when it comes to gender, women issues and all that, we have to be very careful in not recreating or redefining the existing models of patriarchy and other things, right? We need to kind of see how there is a soft intervention, right? How can we support the uh, in a way like a lovingly support the femininity in these spaces, right? Otherwise, it's I mean, these are not like easy things, but one of the things we are trying to do is making available what might be equivalent to like the pin boards of the past, right? Around the corner, there will be like you can see, there is a post here, somebody is looking for a room, and you take a little leaflet and go. What is an equivalent for a community network to have those digital spaces where it's not only community radio, but there's a participation, there's a group participation. It's not left necessarily for individuals to own devices and vying for like, I mean, because it just creates the same hierarchical thing. Again, in these spaces, it's the men with money and they control the women a lot, so they won't be able to. So what is a women's hangout space, and how do you create it so that it's not people are not afraid of these spaces, right? So, so like it's a very complex intertwining of various things that we kind of need to keep in mind when we look at what is the service for these people. Hmm, I I think if there are questions, I can go into the details because I'm not sure like where people or the listeners are when I'm talking about all these things. Okay, I think I'm done.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Mm.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so there are at present there are no questions, but we will take the questions towards the end of the session. Yes, there is an appreciation message from Dr. Rajeshri Joshi from YF. So the important takeaway from Dinesh's talk is about how local knowledge can be used within community networks, and his experience of working with marginalized communities, low literate communities, and how these communities can benefit from the virtues of internet in a local space, not necessarily in an online space. Dinesh's community network is seated at a location that is at the foothills of D&D Hills, that is Devra and Durga Hills in around 150 kilometers away from Bangalore in India. So Dinesh, thanks a lot And we move into the next speaker for our learning session today. The next speaker today is Michael Schwanter. And Michael is a 2015 T. Boer Fellow. He is the founder of ASORCOM, that is Alternative Solutions for Rural Communities, which builds a community wireless network as an alternative communication platform. This network connects more than 20 jungle villages over the hills in Chin State in Myanmar, where there are no proper roads, internet, or mobile coverage. He is CEO at Savory Social Enterprise and one of Myanmar's digital Tarzans from the jungle of Chin State, located in the northwest of Myanmar. So I would like to welcome Michael today to this session. And please, Michael, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for allowing me to participate and to share our experience and our thought on the community network. This is the play we are working, and there are more than 20 villages. We can see each other, but it is divided by the river, and it is difficult to travel especially in the rainy season. We are thinking, or now, as we all know, that the situation in Myanmar, we are trying to change the political system, and then this is the idea of the implementation of digital federal democracy on a community network before we can implement on the ground. And this is what we have designed and what we have working on with the local community for the future, for the new Myanmar. And then we think that the community wireless network as an alternative communication platform for the new Myanmar. The reason why is that right now, because of that, the coup in Myanmar, the Norwegian company sells the privacy of the over 18 million Telenor customer in Myanmar to the company which has a close tie to the military regime, SAC. That's right now it's happening in Myanmar. Then secondly, internet shutdown in Chin State and others since September 23, 2001. Arakan area and some like southern Chin is more than 1 year or more than 2 years now without internet. And thirdly, every communication platform right now in Myanmar are under heavy surveillance. So why this thing happen? Why this thing can be happen is the lack of decentralization, and that's why we want to have non-centralized communication system in the new Myanmar, because when we have the control, when we have depending on the one company or one central government or central administration, that the whole country happen, the effect in this kind of situation. So in the new Myanmar, that all the communication systems should be federate and then control and manage, should be managed by the local state and region respectively. So internet access is now being sort of, especially in rural area, to enhance livelihood, create job and entrepreneurship, and then contribute to the economic growth. Community network is not only to getting internet connection, but also to own and control and manage by the local community by their will, right? So at the moment, we don't have internet connectivity in the Chin State and many area, but we still can use the community network for our main communication platform without internet. So I would like to share some of our experience, problems, and solution. We are alternative solution for rural communities. Shortly, we call that ASOCOM. And it is a building community network as a connectivity strategy for rural and remote Myanmar. We started the pilot project in Chin State in 2013 April. And what we have like old Wi-Fi devices, old computer for the solution of communication. So actually our region has some kinds of the very old way of the telephone communication since the Second World War. And up to the end of 2017, so we operate there as a communication, providing the communication solution. But when the big telecom, there are 4 main telecom in Myanmar. So when they cover the most area, the user prefer to use that to move to the telecom. Then in 2018, we changed it to an offline content providing service platform for alternative learning system. Something like we create the local server, put the Khan Academy offline contents and sharing through the Wi-Fi network, and then a local community can access for free. And since 2019, with the support from the APC, we renovate the network. We could afford to buy a new tools, and then we start again to get the internet, the real internet, and then using that mobile SIM card, like a SIM broadband. And then after that, we can connect the fiber connection from the nearest city. It is something like 70 kilometers far from our place, using that point-to-point 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi devices. Our location is located at the northwest of Myanmar, close to Northeast India. Our main goal of starting this one is the community wireless cooperative will be formed officially in 5 years. So we have a plan for 5 years in northern Chin State of Myanmar, but now the coup happened, then we cannot do much as we want. That there are so many restrictions and have to take risks. So our aims to solve regional communication issue and then establish independent and inclusive online education system. Because the region have every village has the school, but the quality of the school is questionable. So we want to add another layer of the educational support to those schools, like offline library that can access from teacher and as well as from the student, something like that. Then there's so many local products, but there's no market. So we want to create the e-commerce portal that the local people can directly sell their products to the international community. And then banking system, we can extend, or we can bring a better digital money, and also that the management system, like the administration department, we can support technically to the local administration department for converting to the digital administration system. This is the village where we base. So in the last year, we focused on gender and people with disability issue to empower in the transition of digitization. There were 2 parts. We wanted to emphasize, that was to empower equality, right, and opportunity, to create and strengthen the utilize the platform that is community network. So we nurture then women and marginalized people to become social entrepreneur, to meaningfully utilize the digital platform over the community network. So as a vision to solve these community networks is economic, social, and environmental challenges in this specific community. This is a learning process. We are learning from the local, and we also learning from the others, like a peer network. Sharing our experience of building a community network that we share is mainly implementation over the hilly area. It's not a plain area, so it may need to adjust and then make it better for the plain area or the different coastal area. So this is where we have community network. It's totally hilly area. Here we want to highlight some experience working on the hilly area. Community network can be many different types. The one we have here is we are from the community, but we are not living in the community. We are living in the near city. Some people living in the Rangoon, the capital. Some people living in around the world. The implementers, some from Canada, US, Australia, from India, something like that. So when we began, once in a year, we all together going back to the community and do something, giving back to the community something. We know about the community, and then we initiate by ourselves, and then we include the community gradually. Then we mobilize the youth, and we give a training, empower, and then give them a leading role. We start this community Wi-Fi network mainly to solve the challenge of communication difficulties among the village. Later, so we add the educational contents in the local server, and we start by the meeting with the people. So many times we meet with the local people, leaders, children, and then youngs. Then we collect the idea, what they want to be, what they want to have. And then we started since 2008. We organized several meetings, attending several meetings, and share the idea, collect the idea. And then the first, we started this in August 2013. Then we used the locally available, used computer. We got some donation from the local people who live in abroad. There are some challenges. The local community at the beginning, the local community was not understanding what we are doing, what we are trying to give them, what we are trying to build for them. Even though they don't understand, as we are from the community, we got their support. And then we are trying to build the pilot project to show them what is it. And they love it, they use it, and they want to have it. So this kind of response we got. Actually, that when we start the project in Myanmar, it was not the democratic. It's before the transition of the democracy. At the time that we have external challenges, something like the ants destroy our devices, and then when the military government know that our project, we came to our place and captured the devices and warning, we got a warning, something like that. So we have to do that very low profile. Keep doing is the most thing we learn from that. We keep doing, change the idea, doing again and doing again and again. One thing that we learned from the community is that when we got the mobile telecom cover, then people move to use that instead of community network. And but community move there, but most of them have a challenge of the cost of the mobile data, and then the language that most of the YouTube, they can access to YouTube, but most of the language on the YouTube is English and then other language that they don't understand. And most of them, the user in the community, they stuck at social media, especially Facebook, Viber. So we have to change our objective, then and start again. So we are looking for a solution. That we want them to go to further beyond the social media, and like consuming for building or learning something. We want to make the community network is available to the community, and we want to make it affordable access to everyone. We are here today creating documenting locals resources, and we are also copying getting from other resources, and creating a local education content. And then we have a community radio. It's called ISEA FM Community Radio, and broadcast over the network. It is community radio over the community network, and started in Chin Hills Community Coffee Farm in 2016, because we want to generate some fund, some income to support the project and to extend the project. And we started the ISEA FM community radio since 2017 to educate the community, and as well as to document the locals traditional literature, culture, oral history, so and so. And then we also have Savory Chin Hill Coffee. It's a local brand, and then the coffee harvesting from our coffee farm since 2018. So there are some technical points. The products we use are legal and then are locally available, and we try to use the same products and same models as much as possible. And we try to buy as a whole because we can. It's more easier to bargain with the seller, or it's easier to request them for discount or donation as their CSR. And we try to use open source as much as possible. Something like Asterisk Now for VoIP solution, Kaltura TV for IPTV, Jitsi for video conferencing, Colibri for education management. And then most of the computer we have, like we only have the used computer, so old computer. So we put the Ubuntu OS, so something like that. So we think that it is important because they are start using computer, and then let them to start with the free and open source one rather than a proprietary software or pirated software. Community participation is much much important. And they when they know it, they want it, and then they when they hunger, that is much more easier to feed them. And then some community, they don't know it, but we think that they should know it, they should have it, and then we make it for them. And then it takes time, the community to understand, and also it's required the environment. It means like we train them for cybersecurity for so many years, but when the coup happened, many people realize that it is very important. Something like that, working with communities need to take time and to understand, and also they also have to understand what we are doing. And from our experience, we maintain more detail in depth, so it is good to let them to lead the project or the movement. Regarding the local, creating a local content, some we can share is it's good to consult with the local community to know that their requirement, and then create based on their baseline data. And to use a local dialect is very important. And we do translation from others that sometimes we have to be aware of the property right. And we found that we started putting subtitle in the Khan Academy contents, but it is not effective because Khan Academy contents are educational, teaching contents, and then it is not easy to see the subtitle to understand. It is better to do audio dabbing with the local content. So we get the CC license training contents, and then we re-edit, and then we put our local dialects, and then we change it to the in line with the local context. That much better. Regarding fundings, it's we need a fund, but we can start with the small amount that we can afford, and then we can use the old donated computer, Wi-Fi devices, and then it is good to start with what we have and then expand gradually. And then since the beginning, we have to think, we have to have a big picture what we want to be, but start with the small step what we can. And then mobilization, regarding that, keep in touch with the community is very important, and organization meeting frequently, even though there's no issue. Try to meet with them, try to gather with them, be with them, and then be patient and empower them. Is sometimes we have kind of attack or kind of obligation, but we have to be patient, and then to empower them is very important. And all the process is good to document everything as possible, format as possible. It is not easy, but it is not impossible thing. It will take time, and we have to keep doing. Regarding technology, we use 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz. It is unlicensed products. We try to use a Commotion and LibreMesh, open source firmware, and mostly we try to use open source software. Regarding internet backbone, it is important to consider that the legal service, and then the cost and the stability. Some internet services are very cheap but not stable, but some are very costly, very good, but we cannot afford. So we have to adjust between that.
Michael?
Yes.
Michael, please wrap up the presentation.
Yes. So we try to use mesh, and then in the village, and then we use multi-point to multi-point, and sometimes point-to-point technology for one village to another. Then we use regarding towers, we use locally available resources: bamboo, tall tree, iron, and but also to consider that the wind and soil structure. The power system, solars, wind power, mini hydropower, and we have a backup generator. So this is my last slide. So it is important to ask ourselves and also the community, why should the community should have the community network, and why should they use it? And then utilize locally available natural resources with less maintenance costs as much as possible. And then working with the community closely will bring the best impact. So this is not only for them, this is also for our bigger society. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thanks a lot. So the important takeaways from Michael's presentation is the different challenges that Michael has faced in seeding his community network to grow in a hilly terrain of Chin State in Myanmar. And we have learned a lot from Michael, from the experiences that he has shared, not only in this presentation, but in the journey since 2018. We have been closely working together with Michael. There is a lot of understanding about that Michael has thrown light on through his presentation, and of course reiterated by Dinesh as well, about the use of open source, free and open source technology solutions in the when we are connecting the unconnected. And as you can see, that not everything is online. So not everything about community network is not just an online thing about connectivity, online connectivity, but a lot of offline resources, offline aggregation of local knowledge, or community radio, like the example that Michael just gave about Haisha FM, is a very important aspect of community network that Michael has pinpointed on. And the other thing that Michael has actually pinpointed, and it's very important, is about the sustainability of community networks, and wherein he has developed this social enterprise called Savory Enterprises, where communities come together to develop products from their own local knowledge and sell it online. So that there can be some type of income generation, and the livelihoods of the communities can be enhanced or impacted as well. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. We have our next speaker today, and our next speaker is Pooja Majkankar from BIF Development Research Foundation, India. And Pooja has an urge for social and sustainable development, and she is working on the ICT initiatives at BIF Development Research Foundation. She hails from Pune city in India, where she completed her schooling and master's degree in commerce from Savitribai Phule Pune University. And she has been working with BIF since 2002 and has been involved in the Sorted Semen project, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and also as a part of the ICT initiatives of BIF, such as Sanvadini, a rural call center e-learning. Its e-learning, its development and deployment is also overseen by Pooja, software update and technology advancement as well. She is also heading the e-learning initiative at BIF, and her broad interests are in technology and development. So welcome to you, Pooja, and please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sarbani. And I would also like to thank APC and ISEA for giving me this opportunity to share BIF's experiences in community networks. Share my screen, just let me know if you can. can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you. So BIF Development Research Foundation is a civil society organization which was established in 1967 with a mandate of providing rural livelihoods or gainful sustainable employment for the rural families through its various programs which are based in livestock development, agri-hortiforestry, improved quality of life uh, through these programs. BIF works in other cross-cutting areas like biodiversity conservation to up to providing the latest technologies in all these fields. BIF is a political, secular, and professionally managed organization. So today I'm going to talk about two community networks which we established. The first one was funded by APC in phase 1 and in collaboration with IIT Bombay. And the second one is a pilot that we are doing in Jawhar area. So I'll first start with the first network, that is the Pathardi community network. So Pathardi is a small village in Jawhar block of Palghar district of Maharashtra. So we observed that most of the villagers in the community did not have a phone. Even if they had a phone, they had a basic feature phone. The youth had smartphones, but because there was not internet connectivity available there and also lack of mobile network, we saw that the youth did not know how to effectively use the smartphone. And with the onset of COVID, I think having internet connectivity was a very important thing for the communities and the youth in the community. So with the help of APC in phase 1 and technical collaboration of IIT, we set up the Pathardi community network. So this is the architecture of the community network in Pathardi, which is a SIM card based cellular router based connectivity that we developed in 3 in clusters, one in Pathardi, the other one in Dongarpada, and one in Ramkhendi. When we established this network, we faced a few challenges. So the main challenge was the online offline segregation of the network. Like the person who is using the network, the online network, was not able to segregate it for an offline use as well as on online for online use. So that was a main challenge that we faced. Also about the local content, how the local content can be uploaded and used effectively by the community, by the villagers, or also how it can be shared among the other communities. Also about the maintenance of the network. We did set up the network, but the main challenge was who will take the onus of the network, who will maintain the network, what if there is any problem in the network, who will maintain that, who will provide the local support. And when we set up the network, we also found that the cost was a major constraint because setting up the tower itself took up almost 75% of the cost. So I think what Osama ji was saying, why replication is not possible is, I think the main problem is the cost of setting up a community network and also the local support and maintenance that is needed at the community level. We managed to set up the network, and like in session 1, the South African community was saying that we have to create meaning around the network. If we are able to create meaning around the network, if the community finds that this network is really helping them, is really useful in so many ways, I think the community takes up the onus, and then the maintenance or the setting up of network or the support that is required is taken care of. 90%, I think the community is ready to take up all that. So we managed to create meaning around the network when we set up the network in Pathardi. So we started a few interventions like the EDOS, which is a village catalyst. This Pathardi area, this village is very rich in local knowledge culture, tradition. So this can be saved somewhere, or it can be stored somewhere, which can act as a repository for the next generation. So we thought of developing a knowledge sharing platform where all this knowledge can sit, can be compiled together, which serves as a local knowledge repository for the villagers and also for sharing with the nearby network. Uh, Another use case or the meaningness that we created was the e-commerce platform. So these villagers, most of the villagers in this community are involved in small enterprises like mesh. They prepare some face mask out of the mesh. Then they also prepare some nagli laddus. Then we have this local culture of tarpa and all. So all these things are available in the village, and they can sell it offline. Of course, they can sell it through some kiosks and all, but they should also leverage the online world for selling or reaching to the international community for selling their products. So the online network was, so we thought of also creating some meaningfulness for the online network that we created. And so we thought of having a e-dos. Also, there was a need in this village. What we observed was that most of the villagers were moving or traveling to the nearby taluka place just for checking the balance in their account, or just for withdrawing money from their account. Sometimes they had to return back without withdrawing money and again go back the other day just to get the money withdrawn. So they were, in this process, they were losing their labor, their time. So we thought of having a e-dos. She actually acts as a village catalyst who provides various digital services, e-governance services, utility services, and also financial services. We basically started with just providing the financial services, but then as BIAF's main aim is always focusing on the sustainability of any intervention that we start. So we thought of adding services to the existing portfolio. So apart from the financial services that she was providing initially, we also added other e-governance services such as death certificate, income certificate, land records, and other utility services that are such as mobile recharge, DTH recharge, booking gas online. So now the portfolio has increased, and this intervention, the e-dos intervention that we started for the online connectivity, is really helping the community. And since it is helping the community, like I said, it is creating a meaning for the villagers. The villagers are really happy to use this facility, and now the villagers go to the e-dos to take such or avail such kind of services at very nominal charges. So they are ready to pay that nominal charges also for the service that the e-dos is providing. And this has really helped the villagers in the COVID-19 lockdown situation when mobility was almost not possible. It was partially restricted. So she could provide the services in the village itself, and which really helped the villagers a lot in COVID-19 situation. So these are some of our e-dos who are doing commendable job this is one Jungle Pada, Vandana Tai Chaudhary, and Josna Tai Bhue, she is from Bhoe Pada. This is again two villages, Padas in the Pathardi block. So these two, these are the estimates. So they are doing almost financial transactions ranging from 50,000 to 1 lakh per month. And for providing these services and other financial services, they are earning almost 3,000 to 4,000 per month. Initially, we started with just 5 dos, and now we have upscaled to more than 70 e-dos just in this Jawhar block. And we are also upscaling this initiative in other states also. We are into 12 states of India. So most of the states have approached us for starting this initiative in their villages because they found a meaning for this service. And so we are replicating to other geographies. The web portal, as I said, the Pathardi community has a lot of local culture and arts and crafts that the villagers are engaged into as small enterprises. So this is a online portal that we have created, wherein these locally produced or processed products can be uploaded or made available to the outside world, the world beyond the Jawar or the Palghar area. So we successfully uploaded a few rice varieties from Jawhar. We have uploaded a few arts and crafts from the Jawhar block. We have integrated the payment gateway into this, so that in case anybody is interested or want to make payment online, they can always do the payment, and then the supply chain is already available for the Pune city. So the online part, I covered the online part of the Pathardi community network. The offline part, along with the online, we also created some access points in the villages. So these access points were basically the offline access points. So as I said, there is a lot of local knowledge that is available in the village. So through the knowledge sharing platform, we wanted all that local knowledge to come on one platform, and then it can be shared with the outside community. So for that, we needed that the local knowledge is collected by the youth that are there in the village who have smartphones, who can use the smartphones effectively. So we tried collecting, or we are still doing it. We collect the data offline, and the youth that are doing this come to this access point, and then they do the uploading of the data that they have collected, which then sits on the online network that we have created, or the online platform that we have created. So that is a knowledge sharing platform that we have collected, which stores a lot of culture, tradition, food, biodiversity, and music. And it is stored in the form of videos, audios, images, etc. Whatever form is available in a digital way, that is available on this portal. So this typically works as a repository, and which can be used by the next generation, because what we see is most of the youth from the villages migrate to the nearby cities for work, but they are not aware of the culture or tradition that is native to them. So I think this platform will really help them understand their culture, tradition, even though they are far away from their native. And this is one use, and also it can be a sharing between the communities, because as we say, even if you travel from one village to the other village, the way the things, the culture, the tradition, it changes. So this can also become a very effective platform for sharing of knowledge or culture among the communities, and this can become a cross learning between those. So the platform is online, and the data that is collected offline, and which is synced online. So this is the online portal that we have developed, and we have a different categories in which we are uploading data. This is a continuous ongoing process. For now, it is private, and going ahead, we may make it public, which will be, like I said, can be used for cross learning and sharing with other communities. In Pathardi network, what we observed some challenges was that it was not possible for the person who is maintaining the network to cut the network, like online and offline easy disconnection was not possible. So in case the online network password or the ID is leaked somehow, so whenever the person who is maintaining it comes in connectivity, the person who have the password or the ID also get connected to the online network. So we wanted to overcome this problem, and so we decided to have a pilot in Jungle Pada community network. This is another Pada in the same Pathardi village, and we did this pilot with AirPro, of course, again with the help of Dr. Sarbani. because she is assisting us in all the technical things of creating a network. So we did a pilot with AirPro in Jangalpada recently. So with this, we will be able to overcome the earlier challenge of online-offline segregation. Through this pilot, we will be able to just create coupons and make network available to the youth or the villagers in the village for their use, which is not possible as of now. And by registering with some government schemes, this will become a legal thing also. So going ahead, we want to create an enterprise model around this network. So when we create a meaning for this network, I think the e-dost or any other person would be really happy to maintain this network, and it will work as a good enterprise model. So this is a representation of the Jangalpada network. So we have again set up a cellular SIM card based cellular network and added an internet gateway to this. So this internet gateway typically helps in the online offline segregation. So and the online thing is available to the e-dost, which is using to provide different kind of services, a gamut of services for the villagers, which is really benefiting the villagers a lot. And in case any other youth, if she wants to resell it, it can be possible, as I said, by registering to some government schemes, which makes it legal. So this is all about BIF Pathardi and Jangalpada network. And I really, Osama ji was insisting why replication or upscaling is not possible. So I think the community has to find a meaning around the network. And if they find a meaning around the network, I think upscaling the network would be really possible. And second is, it should be a low cost technology. Like in Jangalpada, we have used bamboo for putting up the network, as against the Pathodi network, which was quite a costly affair. So we try to overcome that cost aspect also. And even if we make the local youth, or train the local youth in its maintenance and capacity, do his capacity building, I think upscaling of the network would not be a problem at all. So these are some like the challenges, issues that we tried to overcome in BIF. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Thanks a lot. Before we go into the next session, I mean, Pooja actually focused a lot on the on-field deployment of a community network. And I am very happy to say that I have also been a part of this network building together with BIF, Development Research Foundation. Pooja touched on very important points about not only about the online-offline segregation, but also about what takes up a lot of money when we deploy these networks in the rural areas. Like, you know, tower is one of the major challenges, and we have it eats up into 75% of the rural deployment cost. She also focused a lot on the e-dost model that was initiated through the APC's funding in 2018-19. And it has been a very successful model of the digital catalyst in the rural village. And we have, BIF has taken a women first approach. So that is empowering women to become e-dosts or the digital catalysts. And not only it brings about confidence levels in the women in these rural areas, also it is a means of encourages women for economic empowerment, as well as brings in that meaningfulness to connectivity that women often don't get in these networks. And it's completely, sometimes it is an online network that is through the SIM card based cellular router, and sometimes it is an offline network where local knowledge aggregation is taking place. And she also focused on the recent, so it's like, the ethos have scaled up from 5 ethos that we seeded to grow in the initial project in 2018-19, and it has become now 15. And all over India, actually, where BIF is there are 72 ethos now. So it has actually phenomenally increased, and people are finding it as a very sustainable model, empowerment model in the rural areas. Thank you, Pooja, for that nice presentation. Before we move into to the closing remarks or the open forum, I would like all of you all to please switch on your cameras and let us take a photograph together. Yeah, please request all of you all to switch on your cameras so that we can have a photograph. Anton?
Yes, let's wait for a second. Okay, everyone, please turn on your cameras. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Next page. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Bats. Yeah. So now we can move into the open forum, wherein we can take up questions that have been asked to the different speakers. And please, I will just mention. Yeah. So we have a question from Lisa from ISEA, wherein it is she has asked that question to Michael. Could you share the amount of initial financial investment as well as the organizational and partnership model that you implemented to serve the 15 villages in Chin State? Are you able to operate given the difficult political situation in Myanmar, or were you describing your operations before the military takeover? So, Michael, request you to please respond to the question.
Yes, thank you for the question. Before the coup, at the normals operation, we have a model. We develop a model that the village can start their own access point. So it is $1,000, including 15 days training for up to 15 young from the community for 15 days, including food and travel and everything. Actually, we have a training center in the capital of Myanmar, Yangon, and then we bring them for 15-day training. The training contents including basic journalism, how to use we call Mojo is a mobile journalism, and then networking, computing. I mean, how to start using open source. We use only Ubuntu. Then how to manage the local server, how to create the local content, how to take a video and edit so and so. That is the model that when we finish the training, the team from the ASACOM and the trainees are going back to the village, and we bring everything, the device, the Wi-Fi device that can provide 100 users in the village. Something like maybe some village need 5 Wi-Fi AP access point, 5 AP access point. Some need only 3 access point, depending on the village topography. Then we work together with the local community, build a tower, and then working on creating the network cable clipping, and then do everything with them. Sometimes we build the tower with the local community, like iron towers, something like that. That is the initial investment for the village, less than 100 household. That in a hilly area, we don't have much more than 100 households. So that is the cost, initial cost, and the profit sharing, margin sharing is something like we have 4 different category, 30% and 30% and another 30% and 10%. So one slot of 30% is for investor. So the village, most of the village, they don't invest for their village, but the villagers who living abroad, who living in US or who have a good job in abroad, they can donate, or they can invest for that initial cost. Then the profits, so far we don't have much the profits at that level, but the benefit we have is we buy the local products, something like a grape and an avocado and others local products, and then we make it value adding, like we have a grape wine, we have a coffee wine and something like that. We directly buy from the locals, and then we make it food processing, and then we marketing. But the one village, they are growing coffee with us. The model is at that 30%, 30%, and 10%. So the 30% is going back to the investor, another 30% going back to the management team, and another 30% going back to the landowner, the worker, and then the 10% going back to the community radio or the community network or the community. So that is the model we have so far. Regarding that, the continuous of the operations, after the coup, we continue the service up to the September 2021, when the internet cut out, and then when the junta changed the law in Myanmar, that we have to stop. And then we are very close to the 12 days battle area. So that because of that, we have to take down all the network devices, and we have to keep in the bunker. So far the situation in our main area is not stable yet. So at the moment, we are totally offline. We don't know yet when we can start it back, but the battle is still going on. So that is the current situation update. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks a lot. So you can. So the next question is from Malau Unito from Oiko Credit, and the question is targeted at anyone can answer, either Michael, Pooja, or even Dinesh can also answer. How much is the average investment? Is this investment all external, or is there a local share? How is the investment recovered? So anyone amongst the three of you can take up this question and reply back. Anyone? Michael, you would like to, or Dinesh, or Pooja?
I think Michael.
I mean,
can answer because he is doing actual.
Sorry, somebody is speaking, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Pooja. Yes, go ahead, Pooja. Then Dinesh can go on.
So I said I think Michael can answer this question because he is into setting up of networks.
Michael, you would like to say, or Dinesh? Dinesh, why don't you go ahead?
I mean, investment, the question of investment requires very specific details on what is expected. So if it's like many cases, if it's internet coming in, it's just one node. So two Wi-Fi routers, one on each end, and then it'll reach somewhere, right? Depending on the line of sight and other issues. So if who asked this? Can they talk about what they have in mind more with a lot of detail? You can't hear you, Sarban, you're muted.
Yeah, so it is, can you please ask your question? Hello?
With a lot of details. Ask like what you have in mind to set up with as much detail as possible.
Oh, sorry, that's my question. I only want to know a cost, not necessarily exact amount, but the essential, the minimum investment that is needed to set up a community network, and also how do you
I'm asking like
recover such investment?
No, what I'm asking is, what do you have in mind when you say community network? The details of that, not about the investment details.
No, I was asking actually the presentation from Michael and from Pooja, where they have set up these towers in the community, which has been functional. So my question actually is for them to just say, what does it take? What is the how do you start this? What investment is needed, and how do you expect this to come out? Because these were cost spent, and so to be able to sustain more and establish more of this kind of connectivity, there should be a recovery model, a revenue model. So that's basically my question. How would it come back so that you will start another?
If you want another Patardi, I think Pooja or Sarvani can.
Yeah, here. Can I go in to answer this question? Pooja, you would like to say?
Yes, I was about to say that the Pathadi network was set up with the financial help from APC, so and technical support from IIT Bombay. So I think Dr. Sarbani would be able to elaborate on this. And as far as the revenue model or the enterprise model, we are actually piloting this now in Jangalpada. And if that works out, we will work on the enterprise model that can be upscaled. So we are still on the pilot, which is again on the cost part of it and the support part of it. So once it works out well in Jangalpada, we will work on the enterprise model and then work on the replication of it. Yes, Dr. Sarvani.
Yes, thank you, Pooja. What I would like to mention here is that we worked on a seed capital from APC's funding. And then what we also did is that most of the funding we did not utilize for seeding the community network to grow. Like, for example, what we did was that we tried to find out what type of infrastructure is already available in the community. Like, if there is a 2-story building already available in the community, then you don't need to set up a tower for that reason. So you can put up a pole on a 2-story building, and then it can serve the purpose of getting your network. So the cost depends on the investment that is needed in the community. Like here, if you don't have a 2-story building, that might be that you have to put up a tower, which will be expensive, of course. But again, the cost will come down if there is a 2-story building. Then the other important thing is about the bandwidth or the backhaul. If you are getting a dedicated bandwidth or a backhaul, then it is expensive. Of course, you have to work together with the telecom operator, the ISP, and try to get the bandwidth in, which is expensive. But then if you would like to go in with innovative solutions, like we have used the SIM card based cellular router, which is cheaper option. It's not that expensive option. So you recharge the SIM card in the cellular router, and then you use it for the services within the community. And so these are the cost differentiations that come about depending on the type of network that you need actually. And I think that is where Dinesh was coming in to understand that what is that network that you would like to have. And regarding that, how to generate the cost backwards from the community is we try to generate the operational cost of the community network. In this model, where the CapEx funding has come in from APC, the operational cost comes from the community, wherein we have made that e-commerce platform for them, and their local knowledge, some of it has been made into products which they sell online. And that is how it comes back in a reverse order from the selling that they do in the e-commerce platform. So that is the first thing. In the next pilot that we are doing, we are focusing only on the enterprise model because it is very necessary for them to earn a livelihood out of the connectivity through the cellular router. So this is the next model that we are doing, the pilot. We completed it actually, the enterprise model, and it is giving a lot of good response from the community, because community gets the benefit in the village and they don't go to the city for the services. Yeah, I hope I have answered your question. Yeah.
I can
Yes,
give
thank you very
our
much.
example also.
Yes, you
Like,
can give your
we
example.
have a 10-kilometer first, like a 300 MB fiber line, which, I mean, it comes to a town nearby, which is 15 kilometers away. And we don't put a tower because we found a tall building from where we have a line of sight. And on this other side, there is a hill. So again, there is a building and we don't have a tower. So without the tower infrastructure, the connection itself will be about $1,000 for the equipment to connect these 2 points, and additional solar power sources for on either side, which might come to 1 UPS and a panel. So it might come to almost another $500 to $600 just for that first connection. After that, you need routers to distribute through some Wi-Fi or some LibreMesh or some other ways of doing. And that is, like, you assume now their community is technically connected, but then what does it take to distribute, right? So that's how you think of, like, somebody connected your line to your office. Now it has to go everywhere to every office building, and now you have to go to every office, right? In a community, it could be different houses, and some of them may not be in line of sight. You need to kind of find an intermediate point. So from then on, the actual connection investment starts, and who will pay if that one house is interested, but you are not able to directly connect them. The intermediate router will put it on their house, to bring it in, and that might cost about 500, at least how much? $100 minimum. No. So
yeah, can I ask a question to Mr. Dinesh, please? My name is Shankar Prasad.
hi.
Yeah, Mr. Dinesh, I heard you're near Devarayana Durga. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it looks
In
like
fact,
you have tremendous amount of experience in implementing and understanding the challenges. Is it possible to come and see what you guys are doing?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you?
I'm in Bangalore.
Okay. So it's a day trip or not even?
Not a problem. We work in different places, so it is.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you do?
I run a Sampurna Swaraj Foundation is an NGO. I have already talked to Sharbani. We are very serious. We were very serious about integrating TV white space, because that covers a larger space, 5 to 8 kilometers. That is when of course, we found a lot of difficulty. So
Yeah, yeah.
Surbani is trying to convince us to use the community network, and we would love
Yeah.
to do it. But I would
Sure.
be very happy to come and see something so that we understand how
Look
to.
forward.
We work with
Yeah.
lots of Gram Panchayats across Karnataka.
Okay. And this Devrendra guy, if you're not already been here, it's very beautiful. So come with your family and friends.
No, I know where they were guys. Yes.
Okay.
We'll come. All right, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look forward.
Thank you very much. If you can, I guess I can share your number somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, I'll do that with you.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sharbani.
You want me to write it?
Yeah, if you can, I will take it down right away. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is another question that has come directed to Pooja. Could you explain your revenue model for your various community network initiatives? Have you achieved financial sustainability? Where do most of your revenues come from? So Pooja, you would like to respond to this?
I think this is in particular to the eDost initiative. So again, the hardware investment that is required, that is sponsored, and the training and capacity building is provided by BIF, and the community earns from the services that she is providing to the villages. So basically, she is earning the revenue. We don't take anything back from the community for the network or the hardware that we have set up. So it is for the community, by the community. So it is the revenue goes to the eDost who is providing the services. So we don't take back the revenue. And this is how she earns the revenue, by just providing services at a nominal chargeable basis.
Thank you, Pooja. There is another question from Ricky, and that is directed towards Michael. May I know how is ASORCOM doing? May I know how is ASORCOM doing the makes wireless networks? Is it that technology look like local area network LAN, or it can access the information and make connection from and to the World Wide Web too? So Michael, you would like to respond to that?
Yes. So we started this in learning process since 2013. At the beginning, we used IP star satellite dish, IP stars from Thailand, and then the maximum bandwidth is 2 Mbps is the maximum. So sharing that 2 Mbps to the community is very, very slow. And then some young peoples, they want to download game and they want to play online game. So that a lot of problem we have because they consume that all 2 Mbps by one person. So then later we try to control those kind of activities. And then we also have some complaint from the school because that the parents and complain about that most their children not focusing on schoolwork or only interesting on internet and then playing game. So depending on the community request, then we had to modify the access time, then the access way of access, and then limit the download and then something like that. So we have a both like offline and online. For online, for communication with their distant family member, and then learning online. And then we try to keep that the most learning video and others game or app to download or put in the local server, so they don't need to use the real internet. They can still use the offline contents for what they want to download. Something we do. And another one interesting is that they want to use online. They want to use online, but they don't have the money to pay. And then we create something like the quiz program. And so they have to listen, they have to read or listen the offline contents, like about the human right or child right or something like that, then they have to answer the question, the quiz. Then if they correct the quiz, they pass a certain level, then they will grant it for 1 day access or 2 day access for free, something like that. We create like some incentive to the local community to read meaningfully and to use the internet. So we have to say that we have two models, like the real, to allow them to access the real internet and to access the local contents. To access local content, we don't have any restriction, but to access real internet, we have a coupon system. But certain website, we allow them to access for free, something like information news website or something that they can learn online, like they can practice their English skill, grammar skill, something like that. We in the firewall, we configure some website to be not to be blocked. So this is so far we have experience.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. We are now towards the end of this session today, and I would like to welcome Professor Albert Theo to give his closing remarks. Professor Albert Theo is ISEA and Dean, represents ISEA and is a Dean at Tumba College in Hong Kong. Yeah, he's a wonderful teacher as well. And we have benefited a lot from him from the discussions that we had in the social enterprise course. Over to you, Professor Theo.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sabani, for the kind introduction. A very big thank you to our 4 speakers, Dinesh, Osama, Michael, and Pooja. You have really shared great insights with all of us today. And I really learned a lot. So maybe I could just share some of the points that were raised that resonated with me. Like Dinesh, you talked about the importance of re-narration, and that is coming from the point, the perspective that the community members that you work with, many of them are illiterate, they are more used to voice communication. And then you also highlighted the importance of having community learning spaces, especially for the women who still struggle in a very patriarchal system. And then you also talked about the challenges of getting the right hardware, software resources, and how to create incentives for greater participation. And then Michael, you talked about how, especially in the aftermath of the military coup in Myanmar, it is important for communities to have decentralized networks. So local communities will be owning and managing the community networks. And then you suggested that even as we get more community members to participate, there's always the challenge how to encourage them to move beyond using social media. So you shared about how it is important to create local educational content, how to operate like a local community radio service, and also community coffee to generate income. And then you highlighted the importance of using open source software. And then Pooja, you talked about the importance of creating meaning for the community to use the community networks. So what is the value proposition to the community? So you talked about the eDOS platform, which generates livelihood opportunities for some of the local women. And then you shared with us the e-commerce platform where the local products can then be marketed to a global market. And then you also talked about creating local knowledge, like a repository of local culture, tradition, food, music, and biodiversity. So I was very inspired with your sharings. And then Osama, who did a very short sharing, he actually threw a spanner in the works because he asked us, oh, so why can't we scale up? So why can't we have mass utilization of community networks? And then he challenged us that perhaps we should be tweaking the storytelling. So instead of celebrating the local experiences of different communities using community networks, why should we not talk about this very massive problem that we still have at the global level, where many people are still cut off from connectivity? So going more massive, so scaling up. And then that got me to think, okay, so about community networks in terms of social impact, it seems that it's a problem that a lot of social entrepreneurs face, whatever they are doing. It is always a question of, do I scale deep by doing more things, helping a community to do more things, or do I scale wide, which is to make sure that my idea, my innovation can then be diffused to many more other communities. So it's a matter of either scaling wide or scaling deep. So this is something I will be thinking about in the next few days where community networks are concerned. Okay, so before I conclude, I also need to do a message, to convey a message from Gomer. So Gomer told me to mention that on the 11th of April, there will be our third learning session on community networks. So the 11th of April session will focus on policy, regulation, and governance. So thank you very much, Sabani. So back to you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, thanks a lot. And that was a very clear idea throwing it's a gist of the entire session today, actually, and it's really very nicely done, actually. Thanks to you, Professor. And we now come to the end of this session, and I would again like to thank the speakers today, Osama, Dinesh, Michael, and Pooja. I have learned a lot from you all, and it's nice that we pass on the learnings to others. Thanks, ISEA, Gomer from ISEA, Anton, Bats, for being communication support for this session. And we all would also like to take this opportunity to tell you that the next session, is going to be on the 11th of April. That is going to focus on policy and regulations for community networks. Thanks once again, and see you all again on the 11th of April.